If you're 30 years old with $10,000 invested, which club are you in? The bottom half or the top half? Or are you already closer to the top 10% than you realize? And if you keep investing at your current rate, where will you rank by 40, 50 or 60? These questions need answering. I'm DC Roth from the Bureau. Over the last few years, we've educated over 3 million people on money and markets here on YouTube. And today we're building the investing leaderboard for every single age. We'll show you exactly which bracket you fall into, how you compare with people your age, and what your current habit could mean for the decades ahead. Because someone who starts at 20 with less than $200 a month may not look wealthy today, but if that contribution grows alongside their income, the final position is much higher than most people would expect. We'll also follow Alex, an ordinary investor from 20 to 60. Alex's contribution starts small, increases as life develops, and eventually places him in a club that might surprise you. And listen, this is not about making you feel behind. It's also not about making you feel too good about yourself. It is about showing you where you are, where you're heading, and which number you can still change. But let's be honest, everybody wants to know whether they are beating their friends or not. So before we start comparing, we need to make sure we are comparing the same thing. Add up the investments you actually own through a brokerage account and the retirement accounts that behave like investments. That means funds, directly held shares, bonds, and the investment like money in pensions, IRAs, workplace plans, and similar retirement accounts. Do not add your current account, ordinary cash savings, your home, cars, watches, furniture, or that side business you're planning on selling one day. Those may all matter to your finances, but they don't matter for this leaderboard. Okay, the data we'll be using comes from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the latest completed survey at the time of this video. So this is the most accurate reading there is, period. It covers households, not individual people, and age means the age of the household's reference person. So if you and a partner pool investments, compare your combined household balance with these brackets. If you're comparing your own account alone, cut it in half. And if you live outside the US, the exact ranking will not transfer cleanly. Pension systems, housing, taxes, and family finances vary far too much. That out of the way, let's go. So if you're in your 20s, roughly half of US households in this age group have effectively no qualifying investments at all. That is not a disaster and completely normal. You might be studying, moving cities, trying to get your first proper job, clearing debt, or you might be discovering that adulthood contains invoices for absolutely everything. Participation is often the real dividing line at this stage, so if you already started, you're way ahead. Now look at the screen and find your rank. If you have a few thousand invested, you're not necessarily in the bottom half. If you are at $12,000, you are already in the top 25% of comparable households. Remember, that's per household. The top 1% is around $411,000, which is wild. I did not expect this number. Now let's return to 20-year-old Alex. He invests $2,000 per year. That's about $167 a month. And at the end of the year, Alex is ahead of 61% of comparable households, meaning he's in the top 39%. And if you think about it, that's basically like buying the newest iPhone. Instead, Alex chose to invest it. And this reflects how many people have not started. So if you're in your 20s and already started investing, you'll be pleased to know where things are going. But we'll come to that later in the video. For anyone else, don't worry. Your 20s are less about looking impressive and more about getting into the game. If you have high interest debt, no cash buffer, or income that is super unstable, investing can wait. Build stability first where you need it. But once you can invest, do not wait for a perfect amount. It doesn't exist. The first contribution is supposed to create a habit. Early money gets more years to compound, more time to recover from ugly markets, and more opportunity to work alongside later contributions. So if you are below Alex today, can you start a sustainable path? If you're above Alex, are you still contributing enough to hold that position as other people start catching up? The most useful move in your 20s is simple. Make investing automatic. Even if the number is tiny, Alex will not stay at $167 per month forever. The important part is he will stay consistent. I've got an entire video that explains everything for beginners, and I'll link it down in the description. Okay, your 30s. This is when income arrives and habits get tested. The midpoint is around $10,000, and that tells you something uncomfortable. Earning more and building invested ownership are not the same thing. Your 30s can be financially chaotic. Housing, children, career changes, a partner's income, family obligations, moving costs, weddings, weddings. Overall, most people earn more than they did at 25 but still feel like nothing sticks. The top 1%, however, that threshold is around $1.4 million per household. Please do not treat that as proof that everybody there had the same playbook. Some will have exceptional income, others have business ownership, inheritance, large starting capital, or several things working together. But if we look at 30-year-old Alex, he has approximately $25,000 in today's money. That puts Alex ahead of roughly 64% of comparable households. He's now in the top 36%. And here's the crucial change. Alex does not keep putting in $2,000 a year. Income has developed, life has developed, so his contribution rises to $6,000 a year or $500 per month. Maybe that increase comes from a raise, an employer match, or deciding that part of every pay rise belongs to the future rather than disappearing into lifestyle inflation. So if you are below Alex, can you raise contributions by a manageable amount when income rises? Can you use the workplace plan available to you? Can you automate the transfer just after payday before the money develops other ideas? These are your important questions. And if you're above Alex, you need to ask the less comfortable question. Is your current contribution strong enough to keep you there? The real comparison is between your current contribution and the life you're building, because by the time you're 40, that difference gets much harder to hide. Compounding becomes visible. Okay, into the 40s. The midpoint here is around $19,000. Remember, this is not total net worth. It does not include property, ordinary savings, private businesses, or possessions. At the other extreme, the top 1% is around $2.6 million. So this is where the gap becomes crazy. Many 40s households are getting squeezed from several directions altogether. Children may be expensive, housing may be expensive, parents may need help. This is also the decade where someone can look successful from the outside while having very little invested beneath the surface. Alex has approximately $116,000 at age 40. Again, in today's purchasing power. He's now ahead of 74% of comparable households, putting Alex in the top 26%. Alex now raises contributions again to $12,000 a year or $1,000 per month. The earlier money has had time to work, and the larger current contributions matter as well. This is where compounding becomes visible and the snowball effect starts to matter. At this point, if you're below Alex, your answer is not to take absurd risk because you're annoyed with the outcome. Less runway means you may need bigger contributions, lower costs, a higher income, different spending choices, or perhaps a longer work horizon. If you're above Alex, well done. Give yourself a pat on the back, but do not assume this position is permanent. Check whether your contribution still matches your income, whether your portfolio is diversified, and whether you could hold it through a serious market crash. Okay, here's where things get truly serious. In your 50s, add the same qualifying investments and locate yourself. The midpoint is around $30,000. The top 1% threshold is $5.9 million. Yes, that is a ludicrously large gap. The internet can make seven figures feel like standard adult equipment. It is not. Far from it, as you clearly see. Alex reaches 50 with around $341,000 in today's money. He's now ahead of roughly 76% of comparable households, putting Alex in the top quarter. And Alex increases the annual contribution once more to $18,000 a year or $1,500 per month. This is the whole story in miniature. Start with an ordinary contribution, increase it materially as income and life allow, keep the money invested through time, and this is the way the snowball works. If you are behind Alex, that's okay. Remember, he started when he was 20 years old. Catching up is still possible, but you may need to contribute more while reducing costs. Not every lever is pleasant. That does not make it useless. You have fewer decades than a 25-year-old, obviously, but you may also have higher earnings, clearer priorities, and more ability to make deliberate trade-offs. If you're ahead of Alex, at this point, it's probably hard to spook you. You've likely seen market crashes, different narratives, had kids, lived life, and most of the investments are fully automated. By your 60s, however, the leaderboard tells us something very surprising. The midpoint here is around $18,000, lower than in the 50s, but be cautious with that. This is a cross-sectional snapshot of different households, not a film following the same people through each decade. The top 1% threshold, however, is around $8.7 million. It is an extraordinary outcome, not a normal retirement target. Now, if we look at Alex's story, at 60, Alex has approximately $780,000 in today's money. He is now even further ahead, pulling away from roughly 84% of comparable households, putting Alex in the top 16%. It's a very strong outcome from someone who began with less than $200 a month and scaled contributions as life developed, which is pretty much our average investor. But Alex's ranking does not automatically answer the retirement question. Two households can have $780,000 invested and face completely different futures. One may have a paid-off home, a pension, lower spending and nobody financially dependent on them. Another may rent, have health costs, support family members and expect little income beyond the portfolio. Just keep that in mind. Now, to give you an idea of what it takes to get into the top 10% and top 1%, at age 60, the top 10% threshold is roughly $1.45 million. Under the same illustrative assumption of a 5% annual return after inflation, reaching that with constant contributions from age 20 would require $1,000 per month for 40 years. Reaching the age 60 top 1% threshold, around 8.6 million, would require roughly $6,000 per month for 40 years straight. Those are not small differences. They are different financial universes for most people. The top 1% may include exceptional incomes, business ownerships, usually large starting capital, long contribution histories, or a combination of everything. Alex does not get there. Most people do not get there because it requires lots of luck, and even then, it's incredibly hard. That is not a failure of the example, it is the honest conclusion. An ordinary starting contribution scaled consistently will put you ahead of most households. That's a fact. But it does not turn normal investing into a reliable path to extreme wealth, because that's impossible. Now, of course, nobody believes that every modest contribution creates a billionaire outcome. You need a contribution you can start, a system you can keep, and the willingness to scale it when your life gives you room. This will start the compounding snowball much faster than you can imagine. So if you're ahead today, do not let a good ranking become an excuse to coast, and if you're behind, do not use comparison to punish yourself. Change the part you can change: the contribution, the costs, the portfolio, the automation, the future spending target, or the time horizon. If you want to, let us know which percentage club you're in today. Keep the exact balance to yourself, or not, whatever you prefer. And as mentioned before, if you're just starting out, make sure to watch our beginner's guide right over here. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.